It is Wednesday, February 18th, and we were feeling the love last week on Valentine's Day, but today we are breaking up. We are talking about fantasy breakups. We were into these guys last year, but not this year. Changing our Facebook status, yes?
Can I just say that we did this completely backwards?
Why?
You're supposed to break up the week before Valentine's Day, and then you're supposed to be declaring your love the week after Valentine's Day.
Save yourself a gift.
Save yourself a gift.
Okay, yeah. Well, Jamey and I did this topic on FFT Express last week.
Like I said, we broke up.
Yeah, we didn't break. We're still going strong, and we liked it so much. So let's do a full show out of it. So some of the players we'll talk about today.
It was a great idea by you.
It was it was Thomas's idea, and then it was Jamey's idea to do it for a full show. So I take no credit for it. But some of the players, I think, are we really giving up on these guys? Young, talented wide receivers: Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., 2 busts last year. Xavier Worthy, huge bust last year, not even a top 50 wide receiver. Justin Jefferson. That doesn't mean that we're not drafting these guys. Just we'll obviously explain the context. Before we get into it, would you like to know, Billboard just came out with a list last week of the best breakup songs ever. You ready for the top 5?
I hope it's the stupid song you sang last week.
That's not a breakup song.
No, your version.
In full PPR. Yeah.
We had a bunch of people listening that broke up with the show because of it.
Number 5. I didn't know this was a breakup song. Purple Rain by Prince.
Okay.
Number 4, Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. Number 3, I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. Is that a breakup song? I mean, that
doesn't sound like a breakup song.
It's a great song. It's one of the best songs ever. Number 2, I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. And number 1, I guess this was I didn't realize this was a cover. It became a cover. Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You. I knew the Whitney Houston version. I didn't know Dolly Parton did that song. Did you all old folks know that?
Yes.
No.
Yes, no. Heath?
I'm not sure. I'm just shocked that Taylor Swift wasn't on the list.
Let's see if Taylor Swift has one on here. Because they did top 100. Yeah, she's on here. She's number 60. We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. Give me a break. That's on here. And All Too Well is number 12. Oh, man, that's bad. Okay.
What song should be on there? Do you have a breakup song in mind?
Yeah. Ooh La La. You know that song? I wish that I knew what I know now when I was younger by Faces. That's a great breakup song. Much better than We Will Never Get Back. We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. Give me a break, Billboard. Okay. Welcome to the show. Not a lot of news and notes. Mike Evans says he's going to return for the 2020-26 season. He intends to test free agency. Heath, Mike Evans, or Tyreek Hill, if you were drafting today, they went almost back-to-back in our latest mock.
I'll go with Mike Evans. I mean, he's at least healthy right now.
Anyone disagree?
I agree.
I'm there.
Okay. Josh Kendall of The Athletic does not think that the Falcons will bring Tyler Algier back. Dave, is that big news?
I think it means that Algier will probably end up somewhere else where he will be a 1B running back, but it doesn't mean that we're out of the woods with Bijan being a massive workhorse runner. They'll add somebody else. This draft is full of 1B running backs, so I would expect somebody to be there. Hopefully it's not somebody who's as physical as Algier, and that'll lock in Bijan to every single touch and short yardage goal line situations. That'll only enhance his value.
How about, let's say, like Jerome Ford follows Stefanski from Cleveland?
Right. So, that's an example of a running back who I wouldn't
RB2.
be afraid of. So, I wouldn't be afraid of Ford taking away goal line opportunities.
I wouldn't be afraid of Ford at all, but, that's the type of player
Ford could take away some targets.
Leave Bijan alone. Just go get somebody that, you trust, and just in case, break glass case of emergency, but leave Bijan alone.
I think you see Bijan more in the short yardage, and the tight end takes away some targets.
Oh, maybe. By the way, you all remember the viral video, Leave Bijan Alone. One of the best. No, anybody get that joke? No. Leave Britney. You don't remember Leave Britney Alone?
No.
But what?
Really? Leave Britney alone. You don't remember that?
I remember that. I just don't know how it relates to Bijan.
because he said leave Bijan alone twice.
Oh, okay.
Unironically, he said that. Didn't even know about the leave Brittany alone. All right, Heath, what's coming up on FFT Dynasty? Yeah.
So we just had Dave Kluge on yesterday to talk about the state of the running back position. We've already done quarterback and tight end. On Friday, we'll be talking wide receivers, just kind of breaking down where everything stands, what we think of the free agents, who the top 12 or top 24 are at each position, and a little bit on the rookies. But we've got a lot more on the rookies coming up in the next couple of months.
Cool. Tuesdays and Fridays?
Tuesdays and Fridays, 11:30 Eastern on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasyfootball-today, or you can subscribe to the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Okay, let's go to our topic here. Fantasy breakups. How about Rilo Kiley? Are we breaking up? Dave, are we breaking up with Marvin Harrison Jr.? And you've got Xavier Worthy and two Bills, Dalton Kincaid, and I think you broke up with Keon Coleman a long time ago.
Like week 5, I broke up with Keon Coleman. I don't know if we need to get into that anymore. I don't know if Joe Brady is breaking up with Keon Coleman anytime soon, but we don't need to talk about him. And we talked a lot about Marvin Harrison yesterday, Tuesday's show. So I just kind of wanted to double down on this. Here are some numbers for you. He was 36th in targets per game, 39th in PPR points per game, 33rd in consistency, 3 games last year with 15 or more PPR points, 11 in 29 career games, 7 in his last 21. He got off to a decent start in his career, and then it has not been great since. And just rehashing the point from Tuesday, this is a new coaching staff. They're going to have new ideas on how they're going to use these guys, but it doesn't mean that they're going to care about Marvin Harrison being an early round 1 pick for the Cardinals once upon a time. They can repackage him. They can use him in a different role. They can make it where he's 3rd on the totem pole in terms of targets if they want to. But I don't think there's going to be the same type of emphasis on him getting to the 8 target per game mark. I saw him go in round 5 in our most recent mock. I think that's going to be the absolute earliest we will see him go in drafts come August.
Marvin Harrison Jr., we're talking here. Heath,
Do you have an Azer stat on Marvin Harrison Jr., Adam?
I do. Oh yeah, I have
Good. He's a very Azer statable player.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's not even that good. So he played 12 games, Marvin Harrison Jr. He had 4 games in which he played 61% or fewer of the snaps, 3 games in which he played 51% or fewer of the snaps. I usually use 50%, but I was generous with Marvin Harrison Jr. I took out the game where he played 51%. So let's take a look at his 9 games where he played 60% or more of the snaps. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, especially because he scores touchdowns, right?
How many of those are with Brissett?
Has to be a bunch.
5.
Right?
5 were with Brissett. Maybe 4.
Those are the only ones I care about.
Well, okay, fine. But even still, the 17-game pace in his 9 healthy games, 72 catches, 1,062 yards, 8 touchdowns on 127 targets. Very usable player, not great, but certainly someone you're going to have. 5 games he played with Jacoby Brissett, 5.2 fantasy points at the Colts, 7.8 against the Packers, destroyed Deron Bland and the Dallas Cowboys, 22.6 fantasy points on Monday Night Football. Then the next game, he had 12 targets at Seattle, 3 catches, 33 yards, and a touchdown, but he did score 14.3 points. And then I think one of the more encouraging games was the 12.9 fantasy points at Tampa Bay, when he had come back from injury and he only played 61% of the snaps in that game. And I don't know, that's 3 good games out of 5 with Jacoby Brissett. But guys, can I tell you, so since we're breaking up today, can I tell you a stat that I'm in love with right now? I was just looking at this. How about, look, I'm going to display it on the screen here. Screen passes. Okay, whoops, I deleted it. Screen passes for wide receivers over the last 2 seasons. Marvin Harrison Jr. has 2. Look, Khalil Shakir leads the way with 56, but look at the best, right? Look at Puka, 39, JSN, 37, Jefferson, 36, Chase, 36, Flowers, 36. There's such easy ways to get fantasy points, screen passes. And over the last 2 seasons in his career, Marvin Harrison has 2. Now, you can be good without this. T. Higgins has 0 in the last 2 years. Drake London, I think, has 3. Mike Evans has 2. A.J. Brown has 3. But, these are outside receivers who are winning their one-on-ones, who are, doing a lot of things that Marvin Harrison Jr. just hasn't been doing right now. And they don't give him any easy targets. He's almost never in motion. He almost never goes to the slot. That profile, by the way, very similar to Drake London in his first 2 seasons, which were very disappointing. Seasons 3 and 4 for London, more motion, more slot, better production. So you got a new coach coming in.
Right.
Will he use Marvin Harrison differently? But is Harrison even good enough, or is he just kind of slow? Like,
right.
A lot of questions here. I've talked a lot, so go ahead, Dave.
You see Puka Nacua 4th on this list, and Mike LaFleur is now the head coach in Arizona. Does Mike LaFleur view Marvin Harrison in the same lens as he did Puka Nacua? And I don't think you can do that.
Then let's just look at Adams and let's take away 2024. I have no idea what the answer is, but let's see how many screen passes Devontae Adams had.
Adams had in 2024?
2025. He only had 1.
Okay.
But he wasn't the slot.
Again, is that who Marvin Harrison is? Like, I would ask Jamey and Heath this question. Who do you think Marvin Harrison profiles more closely to between Devontae and Puka?
Oh, Devontae for sure.
Yeah.
You agree, James?
Nothing like Puka.
Devontae.
I would lean Devontae as well, just because it's current day Devontae, not Devontae Adams from 4+ years ago, because Devontae isn't quite as explosive, but he's a good route runner. I still think Marvin Harrison's a good route runner too. I'd be surprised if all of a sudden Marvin Harrison became Devontae Adams in the Arizona offense. It became their red zone weapon. On top.
I think he'll for sure. Like, that's what he's been so far in his career, is the red zone weapon.
But they've got a bunch of guys who could fill that role. It's not just him. And listen, the Rams obviously had a bunch of guys that filled that role as well. But will it be to the same extent? And I don't think the answer is yes to that question. So I think I'm going to be able to easily find 24 wide receivers I'd rather draft than Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point. We'll see what the Cardinals do, what improvements they make, etc. Of course, that's going to come into play. But Marvin's somebody that I'm not going to be nearly as excited about drafting as I was when he was a rookie and as a second-year receiver.
Okay.
Oh, and the last thing, just the comment about him not getting those screens. The follow-up question would be, Adam, and you can look this up if you want to. If not, I will. How were there receivers that got layup targets in Arizona? And if there weren't, what does that mean for Detroit's offense now that Drew, not Chris Petzing, is the play caller for them?
The answer is no. Michael Wilson had 2 screen targets last year, and Marvin Harrison Jr. had 2.
They all went to Trey McBride.
I'll try to look at how many Trey McBride had.
Which is smart.
In screen option here, but yeah, I'll see if that was a part of their offense at all. Okay, let's take a break here, and I want to talk about Xavier Worthy, who I was very excited about. Didn't work. Why can't I find tight end screen? Maybe Dave, you can look this up. But
yeah,
I got 24 screen passes for Trey McBride.
Okay,
so there you go.
So somebody got some screens in Arizona.
Any other tight end in the NFL? I only got for Bowers. Only have 2. About that.
Well, that's normal. He only played 3 games.
Anyway, we'll be right back to talk about Xavier Worthy and Justin Fields and Jerry Jeudy and more after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Xavier Worthy was a 5th-round pick for us last year in our drafts. And in the draft that we just did, he went in the
4th
round, which was a mistake. Dave's got him on his breakup list. Is anybody, Jamey, Heath, before I let Dave talk about Worthy, do you guys have hope for a bounce back season for Xavier Worthy?
No.
He's currently not in my top 60 wide receivers.
Woo!
Wow.
All right, so we can make it quick then. Go ahead.
Yeah, he had 15 PPR points in 6 games as a rookie, 1 in 2025. He ran 90 fewer routes. His targets per game went down by 0.6 targets per game. His yards per route run was the same. His route depth was up a yard. His ADOT rose. His explosive catch rate rose, and his drop rate was cut in half. He didn't have anything in the touchdown department. He only had 1 touchdown. His red zone targets crashed. I went back and watched some of his biggest plays from last year. one of the four biggest catches he had involved deep speed. Everything else involved him doing something else to get open or busted coverage. And if Rashee Rice is back, Kelsey's back, maybe they add something else to this passing game. What role does Xavier Worthy have? And I think it justifies what Jamey said, that he shouldn't be a top 60 wide receiver. I'm not quite there yet with Xavier Worthy, but he's not going to be a top 36 wide receiver. And going in round 6, I think is pretty silly, much less round 5 or round 4.
If we define deep balls as 20 or more air yards, over the last 2 seasons, there have been exactly 100 wide receivers with 10 or more deep ball targets. Worthy, I think, has about 35. Of those 100 wide receivers with 10 or more deep ball targets, Xavier Worthy ranks 90th in yards per attempt. He's been terrible on those 2 straight years, and some of it, honestly, is Mahomes. Mahomes has been really bad throwing the deep ball. I watched all of these deep ball targets again today. Some were not. He wasn't even open. One, he was wide open for a long touchdown, and Mahomes missed him by a mile. And there were several where Mahomes just missed him by a mile. So it's just a bad. They have a bad connection. All right, Dave. 2 Bills: Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid.
I think just one thing on Worthy in the event of a potential Rashee Rice suspension again.
Yeah,
that might change things.
But we had that last year. How did Worthy do in those games?
He
got hurt.
He had 3 games without Rashee Rice, and he had, I want to say, 8 or more targets in 2 of them. So he didn't do that well for whatever reason. He was coming back from an injury. But in terms of just target volume, it's not even close. Like a huge difference when Rashee Rice didn't play. Huge difference.
So obviously that's a factor that'll come into play. All right. There's no reason to talk about Keon Coleman anymore. So let's just focus on Kincaid, who I took in round 11 in our most recent mock draft. And I'm okay with that because that's not a lot of serious draft capital to spend on a tight end who really became touchdown dependent last year. It was his best year in fantasy, 11.3 PPR points per game, despite 4.3 targets per game. That's kind of gross. And that's really what it comes down to. He's had a career where he's had chances. He's had a lot of volume, 22 of 41 career games with 6+ targets and 17 career games with at least 11 PPR points. But he needs the touchdowns, and I don't want to trust. I don't want to raise him up the tight end hierarchy just because he's coming off of his best year, just because the play caller is now the head coach, just because Josh Allen's his quarterback. This is a team that I expect to make some significant changes in their passing offense this offseason. Stop me if you've heard that one before in Buffalo, and I think it'll lower the upside for Dalton Kincaid overall. Plus, he's an injury risk on top of it. I'm not sure if he's had even a 17-game season yet in his life.
Let's see if I have this list here. This is, well, I'll just tell you. Dalton Kincaid, there's always encouraging stuff with him, but it's just never enough actual production. 2.74 yards per route run, led the position by a mile. Number 2 was Tucker Kraft at 2.27. So he had a good year, but yeah, I understand. Just not enough. It doesn't play enough.
He's missed at least 4 games each of his last 2 seasons.
Even when he plays, he doesn't play enough.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Under 40% of the snaps, I think, in his last 8 games.
Right. Perfect back end of the draft tight end. So maybe I'm not breaking up with Dalton Kincaid in that regard. But remember, where were we drafting him last year? We were drafting him pretty high.
But he's always hurt.
Last year was late. 2 years ago was high.
Okay.
He's always hurt. And he's always, he's had these injuries, dealt with these injuries each of the last 2 years. And I think there was a time before, in 2024, before his injury, he had 2 knee injuries that year. He's actually playing a decent amount. So I wonder if, he's the kind of guy like, first few games of the year, Dalton Kincaid's playing 75% of the snaps. This could be big.
Well, I think there's some encouraging things. First off, we don't know what Joe Brady's plans are because he's now, taking control of the team, let alone, changing the offense to whatever degree he wants to. I also think you're going to see Dawson Knox as a cap casualty. So that will hopefully help some things for Kincaid as well. Clearly, as Dave said, there's changes coming personnel wise because they can't continue with the same receiving core, whether it's draft, trade, free agency. Something's going to have to change with this personnel here. But I do think when you look at it, I believe almost half his games were 12 or more PPR points. A lot of it, as Dave said, was touchdown dependent. But when he was playing, he was a fairly productive fantasy tight end. He certainly returned good value for where you got him last year or when you were using him. But yeah, I think, you are talking about somebody that you settle for as opposed to reach.
Okay, Heath, you are up. Your
Yeah,
breakup.
I took this a little bit more literally than Dave did. I don't think there's anybody that I drafted in our last draft that's on my breakup list. Maybe not anybody that anybody's going to draft at all. But just like turned into a highlight. The guys Heath was really wrong about last year. Jerry Jeudy was absolutely awful. The Browns are going to hopefully add an actual wide receiver one. Justin Fields was awesome for fantasy when he got to start, but I think the NFL's decided he doesn't get to start anymore. So it doesn't matter how good he is for fantasy. And Deebo Samuel is an older wide receiver who really, he has to land in a place where he's going to get rushing work and be used in a very specific role. And now that he's a free agent, we have no idea if he'll get that.
Okay, great. Let's go to Jamey now. That was very good.
I think it was one of our shows during Super Bowl week. It might have been McCaffrey talking about he'd welcome Deebo Samuel back to San Francisco, which would be interesting.
One of the things for Deebo is he only had 1 carry per game last year. All right, 17 carries in 16 games. So they just didn't use him that way. Usually he was closer to 3 carries per game with San Francisco, but he's just not the rusher that he used to be. He also got off to a pretty good start. And then he had a heel injury and everything went downhill for Deebo. And what is he going to be? 30, right? Or 31?
Yeah, he is already 30.
So he's not too old.
Right.
So I don't know. Are you hopeful that the injury was the reason for his struggles?
I mean, I don't know that based on what his cost was last year, that struggles is even the right term. Like he probably gave you enough value for what he cost last year. It's just that like the injuries have been a concern throughout Deebo's career. The efficiency has been below his career marks in yards per catch and yards per target each of the last 2 years. And as you said, he didn't get quite as much rushing work in Washington. And I think anywhere he goes from Washington, there's a risk that he gets even less.
He had 7.4 touches per game in his first 5, and then 4.7 touches per game the rest of the way.
How many of those first 5 did Terry McLaurin miss?
2. But he was still, I mean, Adam said it, like he was on fire to start the year. It was like 4 of his first 5 games with 17 plus PPR points. And then probably the injury more than anything else is what really did him in. But obviously, Jaden Daniels missing time hurt, and just the offense in general not being that great hurt Deebo Samuel a little bit. But he's going to need to thread the needle of significant role, good offense, good volume in order to be a semblance of his former self. So I think he belongs on the breakup list for sure.
It probably won't be me, but I could see people getting excited about him if he goes to a Buffalo or a Las Vegas or Tennessee or one of these teams that are lacking receivers. And, look at this opportunity for him. I just don't know if he's that type of receiver. You know, like he's going to be that type of guy that you say, okay, this is a guy you can not necessarily build your offense around, but, you know, feature enough that is going to be successful. Like he's certainly more, and has been for a while, more of a complementary option than a lead guy, you know. So just be careful if he's, you know, this is our only addition type of guy.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel has only had 1 year in his career where he's averaged more than 60 receiving yards per game. And some of that is he's constantly leaving games with injuries, but that 1 year, man, we had a 1,400-yard season. What a year for Deebo Samuel. Okay, I want to talk about Jerry Jeudy. He's such a fascinating player, and I want to just bring up his profile and take a look at his yards per route run. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble. Oh, I know why. Okay, Thomas, I forgot. You have to remove the graphic. I'll do that. My bad. All right, I'm not so good at adding things to StreamYard. Here we go. So this is Jerry Jeudy. Should I zoom in, or is that okay? Good, fine.
I would zoom in.
All right, we'll zoom in. All right, let's look at his yards per route run. I mean, pretty solid. If you're over 2, that's amazing. But 1.6 range, that's good. His yards per route run, Jerry Jeudy in his career, 1.66, 1.85, 2.16, 1.65, 1.73. Last year, 1.02. It was just horrible for him, but he's a better player than that. He's had 2 really impressive seasons from a fantasy standpoint, 2022 and 2024. And I don't know, Heath, you're breaking up with him. I get it. But is there a scenario where you could see Jerry Jeudy, who still is, I think he's like 27 or something. He's not old at all. You know, could see him becoming a fantasy starter again.
I mean, I think in a 3 wide receiver league, it's possible, but highly, highly unlikely. The one thing you have going in your favor is he is due for another good year because he's basically been better every even year, better in 2020, 2022, and 2024 than he was in any of the odd years. So I think he's due for another good year.
And look at that explosive play rate. I mean, he's always been good at making big plays, 18% or higher every year of his career, 8.5% explosive play rate this year. And you'll also notice career low slot rate, 13.3%, had never been below 31% in the slot. So everything was wrong for Jerry Jeudy. Did he get drafted? He did, round 13. So he went right before Tank Dell, Pat Bryant, Rashid Shaheed. All right, Jerry Jeudy needs to prove it. Very strange career for Jerry Jeudy. All right, we good? Anything else you want to say? Cool.
I mean, I did have this one wild thought. Is there was some talk that Justin Fields might get cut by the Jets.
Yeah.
I guess if Todd Monken said, I could probably run a similar offense to what I ran with Lamar Jackson with Justin Fields, and I don't have a quarterback anyway, and he ended up in Cleveland, then I might get too excited about him again.
That would be crazy to go with Shador, Gabriel, and whatever's left of Deshaun Watson coming back. Like that would be. Let's just throw Justin Fields in there too.
Justin Fields scored 29 or more fantasy points in 3 of his first 4 games. 2 of them were in Dallas.
I was on top of the world.
Yeah,
Jets saved $10 million if they designate him a post June 1st cut.
My 16-year-old said to me, we were talking about this last night because we were heading home from basketball practice, and I saw your text. And so I was trying to think of the guys that I was going to send in, and I said Justin Fields. He said, you liked him last year?
Yeah.
I said, he was great for fantasy last year at the beginning of the year. He said, I know, he was my QB1 because you liked him. But then he also said, he's like, the Jets were terrible anyways. Why didn't they just play Justin Fields? Because it was more fun. I don't know.
He could go out and have a decent game and just never seem to be a decent game for
right.
Obviously, good for fantasy, but I remember the Patriots game. I really thought he played well in the Patriots game. That was his last game. And it was a really good defense. He scored 21.3 fantasy points, and Aaron Glenn just never, I guess he just wasn't running the offense they wanted him to run it. Aaron Glenn never seemed very happy. All right, Jamey.
What was the offense they wanted to run? Does anybody know that answer?
Yeah,
no, they don't want to run it anymore.
You got some big names on this list, Jamey. Fantasy breakups, Christian McCaffrey, not because we're mad at him for last year, but Justin Jefferson and Brian Thomas Jr., we're mad at them for last year. Neither of them were top 40 wide receivers per game, except for Jefferson in PPR. He was closer to 30. He had a lot of catches, but I was 39 in non-PPR, 31 in full PPR per game, but neither of them were top 30 per game. I can say that. So it's McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, and Brian Thomas Jr. Let's put a little context on it first with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, obviously it's a lot of red flags that he's, going into 2026. Going to be 30 in June, coming off another season with 400 total touches. It's very similar to the Saquon Barkley conversation we had at this point last year, where I was concerned about what the, production would be coming off of all this work. Now, thankfully, Saquon stayed healthy, but clearly there was a decline. Well, we've dealt with this with McCaffrey already. It was 2 years ago. He was coming off a season with over 400 total touches. He was only 28 at the time, or turning 28 at the time, and only played 4 games due to injury. So it's just tough to say that he's going to be as successful again. Now, clearly, if you look into, your Magic 8-Ball, Adam, and we get, 13 plus games out of McCaffrey, I think everybody will say, okay, I'll buy into that because of what he's able to do. Now he's different because of what he does with his touches, because they're not all carries. He's clearly involved in the passing game, but you are talking about an offense that's going through a lot of turnover here. Receiving core that's a mess, tight end that's banged up, offensive line that still needs some work, older Trent Williams, who's been such a force and arguably the best left tackle of his generation. There's just a lot of things that are changing here for McCaffrey. And so he's still going to be a first-round pick. I'm still going to rank him as a back end of the first-round pick, but I don't think I'm going to draft a lot of Christian McCaffrey. Now, went back, happened to be looking, I won't say whose it was, but I happened to be looking at somebody's rank list that they sent in to us in Week 18. It's nobody here. Still had McCaffrey as the number 1 overall pick. Like, I just can't get behind him even as Not even a top 3 running back, I think. I have H.N. ahead of him and maybe Jonathan Taylor also. But certainly Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, it's just tough to buy into all the data that we get with these guys when they hit this age with this workload. And then you factor in his injury track record. Like, it's just tough because he's been so special.
I think that the hard part is, because I wouldn't rank him that high, but when I just finished up my projections process, you can go to CBS Sports and look at the way too early projections for the guys that at least have a team right now. And if you just go through kind of a standard projection process of what have these guys done and project 17 games for everybody, well, Christian McCaffrey is so obviously the number 1 pick, it's not even close. And so how much do you factor in all the things that Jamey said that we probably do need to worry about with him? I think he probably ends up going mid round 1 in all drafts, and I'd feel a lot more comfortable with him end of round 1.
I do think, and this is the next thing to keep an eye on. I was thinking about this when you said Algier. They don't have they have Garendo, I guess. So Brian Robinson Jr. is a free agent. So that next guy could be huge. Like, do they sign someone? Do they draft someone? Do they stick with Garendo? Do they try to go the, retread veteran route like they did with Robinson? Like, that next guy could be one of the most important picks in fantasy.
Wasn't there a report out that they have big plans for Jordan James?
That could be the guy. Who knows? I didn't see that, but sure.
So I think let's compare McCaffrey and Barkley. Okay. And what went wrong with Saquon Barkley? His yards per carry was a lot worse. The explosive plays were gone. And I think they were like astronomical in his 2,000-yard season. I think if you look at McCaffrey, though, he averaged 3.9 yards per carry. He hardly ever had any 20-yard runs. So it's not like he's going to have an efficiency drop. Whereas I think that was fairly easy to forecast for Saquon Barkley, not to this level. Also, the Eagles were just a mess. The 49ers offense, it could happen. I mean, their offensive line isn't what it used to be, right? But it's hard to forecast them having a drop off the way the Eagles did, but it could happen. I guess what I'm saying is with Barkley, he did stay healthy. His problem was performance. With McCaffrey, all he has to do is stay healthy. I don't think he's going to be less efficient than he was last year. And he only had 10 rushing touchdowns in 17 games. It's really not that much. So he just has to stay on the field. If he can just repeat his efficiency, I don't think there's anything from a performance standpoint that is out of line for McCaffrey. Is there?
I think one thing with all the injuries they had last year, and George Kittle missed several games too, but especially at wide receiver, I don't know that we can count on McCaffrey's role in the passing game being quite as big as it was last year if they make the significant additions in the passing game that we expect.
Yeah, that's a great
To that point, he averaged under 5 catches per game, 22, 23, and 2024. He only played 4 games in 2024. Last year, he averaged 6 catches per game. So now we're dialing back his receptions per game by a third, and the numbers will follow. It's difficult to take him as the number 1 overall player. Let's see if we still feel that way by August.
And Debo would probably be like Debo. I'm not trying to say he'd probably be a bad thing for McCaffrey because they would probably use him in similar places where they used McCaffrey last year.
Yeah, there's 20 players that they could add that would be bad for McCaffrey. But it would be good for the 49ers. Like, you don't think the 49ers are sitting there in Santa Clara next to their electromagnetic station or substation, whatever the hell it is, saying we need to get some work off of this guy if we want to keep him healthy for 17 games? They can't.
Ironic that that report comes out about the facility, and they have 2 games now internationally.
Right.
But they're not both home games, are they?
One was, I believe.
One's got to be a home game. They're not going to lose 2 home games internationally.
No, but the road game they lose, they might have a week where they get to practice away
right,
from
2 weeks out of
the they'll practice in Australia before Australia.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about 2 awesome receivers. Well, 1 amazing receiver, 1 guy who had one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen, and why Jamey's got them on his breakup list. We'll be right back.
The crowd loves champions. Gladiator 2 is an epic spectacle. To amuse you is my only wish.
The glory is yours, not mine.
Very good. Gladiator 2, rated R. Now streaming on Paramount+.
Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 39 per game in non-PPR, 31 per game in full PPR. Brian Thomas Jr., not as good. Wide receiver 46 per game in both formats. And after the Jacoby Myers trade, the last 6 games of the season for Brian Thomas Jr., weeks 13 through 18, because he missed the first 3 games with Myers, he was on pace for only 88 targets. Brian Thomas Jr. had a 16.6% target share in that stretch with Jacoby Myers. And by the way, Parker Washington wasn't even playing a full snap share in some of those games. So, Jamey, who do you want to talk about first, Jefferson or BTJ?
Well, I'll combine both by saying there's asterisks with both these guys, because if Jefferson gets a quarterback upgrade and Thomas gets traded, then I will definitely go apologizing, flowers and candy and all those things to, mend the breakup. But as we stand right now, Jefferson last year, we'll start with him, was great with Carson Wentz. In those 5 games, he was averaging over 16 PPR points per game. In the JJ McCarthy games, as you alluded to, it was barely over 10 PPR points per game. So it was ugly. And, look, they're going to, I'm sure, make as many overtures as they possibly can to, find the right quarterback upgrade if they're just giving up on McCarthy altogether. So you're going to hear Kirk Cousins, you're going to hear Derek Carr, you're going to hear Mac Jones, you're going to hear a lot of different guys that are going to, be in the mix there. I doubt it's a Malik Willis type of player, free agent that's on the market. Maybe it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Thomas might have more information, following the Vikings closely as he does. But I think just in the case of whoever that quarterback is, will definitely be good for Justin Jefferson, because McCarthy was not. There was the report that came out this week, like they stopped calling plays over the middle because they didn't trust McCarthy to throw in that part of the field. Like, that's just how bad it was in regards to where his development has gone so far. So, and it's even him getting better. It's just right now, I find it every time I see his name go off in the early part of round 2, I cringe. In the middle part of round 2, I'm like, maybe. And the end part of round 2, it's like, okay, this is where I would start to consider it. Like, I just don't feel like Justin Jefferson is going to perform to the level of his potential in the current environment that he's in because of his quarterback.
Here is where Minnesota has ranked in 4 seasons under Kevin O'Connell, with gross passing yards per game. So this is not including sacks, just the amount of passing yards per game. Second, first, 5th, 30th. They were 30th this year. Can you name the 2 teams that threw for fewer yards than Minnesota?
Cleveland and Tennessee.
Cleveland and Heath's breakup list.
Oh, the Jets.
The Jets.
Yeah, Cleveland and the Jets. So it's shocking to see the Minnesota Vikings 30th on that list, but they also have this great defense, and they don't need to throw the ball as much. So that's another factor as well. All right, Brian Thomas Jr. What on earth happened with Brian Thomas Jr.? Because, with Jefferson, you can look at the offense being bad. Trevor Lawrence just had his breakout season, was a top 5 quarterback, and Brian Thomas Jr. was wide receiver 46 per game, Jamey.
Yeah, I don't think if you were to say, here, Lawrence is going to be awesome, but Thomas is going to suck, that would just kind of throw everybody for a loop before the season, and that's what happened. And again, a lot of things changed throughout the course of the season. I think at the beginning of the year, he was dealing with the injury. He was adjusting to Liam Cohen's offense and adjusting to Travis Hunter. Then it was the addition of Jacoby Myers and the breakout of Parker Washington. And, as Trevor Lawrence continued to improve, Brian Thomas Jr. just did not come along for the ride. And so there's a lot of things that you have to keep an eye on this offseason. There's already the ESPN report of him being potentially part of a trade scenario. One that was floated out there was Buffalo.
Yep.
There's the potential of just too many mouths to feed if he stays in Jacksonville because of Hunter coming back and now Myers being there under a new contract and what Washington did. And so with all these guys, and let's not forget Brenton Strange, whatever happens with their backfield, like there's just a lot of, targets that need to be spread about. And I don't know if Thomas commands the same type of attention. Maybe it was just because, and you talked about this a lot, Adam, that his stretch in his rookie season, Evan Ingram was hurt, Christian Kirk was hurt, and it was just feed Brian Thomas over and over again with a backup quarterback that had nothing to lose. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, not that he's going to be fearful of his job. He's not Mac Jones going out there and just throwing the ball all over the place. He's got to be a little bit more cautious and careful with the ball and manage the offense a little bit differently. So it just all fell apart for Thomas. Obviously, the talent is there. He doesn't do what he did he does not do what he did as a rookie and not have the potential to still be a great wide receiver and a great fantasy wide receiver. I just don't know if it happens in Jacksonville right now. So 3rd year, still a lot of upside, still somebody worth drafting. I don't even know if he should still be the first Jacksonville receiver taken, just because of what Washington looked like and what Myers can still be. It's just a lot to digest right now with Brian Thomas. So I personally would like to see him traded and go to a team that he be the clear-cut alpha. Buffalo would make a ton of sense. Pairing him with Mendoza in Las Vegas would make some sense. There's just a lot of different destinations. Tennessee with Cam Ward. There's just a lot of, the openings around the league for a number one wide receiver. He would definitely fit that bill and might need just to have a reset after what happened in his sophomore campaign.
Is he that kind of player? You can take a look here. We're showing his True Media page, and you can see the yards per route run. 2.46 yards per route run was one of the best rookie seasons ever, at least over the last decade. I shouldn't say ever, but since 2014 was that amazing rookie class. These are the guys who have averaged more yards per route run than Brian Thomas Jr. as rookies. Odell Beckham, Luther Burden is, by the way, number 2 on the list now. A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr. To be in that company, Beckham, Brown, A.J. Brown, Jefferson, Puka, Jamar Chase, and then Brian Thomas Jr. And yes, Luther Burden, like I said, he's in there now, but he had probably by far the fewest targets of anyone on this list. And then to have this kind of second season was really shocking. And the funny thing is, Trevor Lawrence actually wasn't that good, when Brian Thomas Jr. was healthy the first 9 games, well, healthy in quotes because he was playing through a wrist injury. And then Thomas got hurt. Trevor Lawrence, they traded for Jacoby Myers. Then Lawrence became great. And at that point, there were so many mouths to feed. But yeah, I don't know. Dave, do you think if Brian Thomas Jr. went to a team like the Titans or something, could he be a star again? Does he have that?
Yeah. I think it could happen. And I think we need the Jaguars and Brian Thomas Jr. to break up in order for fantasy managers to reconcile with him. But the Jaguars are not going to trade him in their division. They're not, unless Tennessee overpays, which they're not going to do. They're not going to trade him to Buffalo because they're a direct competitor for the AFC crown. So who in the NFC could use a wide receiver like this? And the very first team I thought of is the team that has a quarterback that made a lot of magic with Brian Thomas Jr. at LSU. If I'm the Commanders, and if the Commanders want to prioritize adding another wide receiver, remember Debo is going to go into free agency. They've got a bunch of other guys that are, they're average players, but they're going to be free agents too. If they want to really make a splash and they don't want to, get Brandon Ayuk, I wonder if they should at least kick the tires on BTJ and see what it would cost them to get him in their offense. Because I think that would be an amazing landing spot for him. And I would feel really good about Brian Thomas Jr. if he's in a dialed down offense. Because remember, they're going to add more under center stuff and not do the Cliff Kingsbury thing with David Blau as the play caller, and with a quarterback that can bring some, I guess I'm not sure what the word would be, but it would probably maybe ease Brian Thomas Jr. and make him feel better about the situation and know that he can they've had success together before. I'd be surprised if they weren't able to replicate that again to some level if it were in Washington. So I agree. I think a trade has to happen for BTJ to be back in fantasy's good graces.
Last word, Heath?
Please send him somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. What happened at the end of the year, in my opinion, you look at the snap share, and the injuries and stuff like that, there were really only 4 games, including the playoffs, where you had normal snap shares for Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, Brenton Strange, Brian Thomas Jr. And the targets in that stretch are unbelievable. Parker Washington had 41 targets. Jacoby Myers had 27. Brenton Strange had 23. And Brian Thomas Jr. had 17. And the way they were using him is like a guy that if I had a breakup list might be on it. I don't know. He might go late enough where probably not going to be on it. But Ricky Pearsall, the way they were using Brian Thomas Jr., super high average route depth. It's like he was running these clear out routes and setting things up for everyone else and just going deep on the perimeter all the time. And I was surprised they did that with Pearsall. That just is kind of weird in San Francisco. But yeah, it makes sense with Brian Thomas Jr. when you look at the skill sets of Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington and Brenton Strange, whatever. So yeah, it's not the situation we want. We don't want him on Jacksonville. Who you guys go around the room? Heath, Dave, Jamey. Who's the first Jaguars receiver you're taking?
Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby.
I'll go Parker.
Yeah, Parker Washington. Another thing I noticed. So before the Jacoby Myers trade, you did have Travis Hunter there, but there were 8 games before the Jacoby Myers trade for Brian Thomas Jr. And within those 8 games, Parker Washington had 4 games where he played a lot. He played over 70% of the snaps. And he had 4 games where he barely played less than a third of the snaps. So now we got these 8 games. And within those 8 games, we got these 4 games with a lot of Parker Washington. And in those 4 games, Parker Washington had 9 or more targets 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll sum it up by just saying Parker Washington had a much higher target per route run rate than Brian Thomas Jr. before the Myers trade, after the Myers trade. And I didn't notice that until that was really, really interesting. And obviously performed.
What if Mac Jones goes to Minnesota?
Okay.
They trade Brian Thomas Jr. there for Jordan Addison.
Huh.
Then they sign Mike Evans, reunite him with Liam Cohen.
Mm-hmm. They trade for Kyle Shanahan, and now they have an even better coaching staff. Let's give them a couple of offensive linemen that we just throw at them. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. All right. Well, those are our breakups. Did you guys want to contribute any breakup songs that you liked? It's tough on the spot. Okay. Well, anyway, I hope none of you have to listen to breakup songs at any point.
What a non-awkward way to end the show, Adam. Great job.
You know, it was great that Dave, I went back and watched the Hall of Fame stuff yesterday. Adam doing play-by-play while you were trying to adjust the microphone.
I went back and watched too. Adam did an amazing job filibustering. Wow.
I did?
Yes.
You
reminded me of like someone who's like the anchor of a news show who's like trying to kill time while a parade is on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the parade is going on down 5th Street and the families are happy. Everybody's cheering. It's really a great time and the weather's unbelievable. Like, I thought you did a great job of covering for my stupidity.
I thought it was a lot of fun. You know what? I have a tweet, a good content tweet. If we want to finish with this, comes from Minnesota Sports Fan, which is either Johnny Airport or Thomas. We don't know.
Right.
Or this other person. But Minnesota Sports Fan says, why doesn't anyone talk about Cam Scadaboo, a former day 3 running back, getting a new head coach? I know he's a ton of fun to root for, but betting against day 3 running backs with a new head coach is a good bet. Remember how fun Damian Pierce was? D'Amico came in and he was a 0.
It's possible.
Yep.
All right, good stuff. Thank you. I think he's going to be very
Anybody else
satisfied.
fall into that category this year?
Who?
Does anybody else fall into that category this year?
Day 3 rookie running backs.
Judkins was a day 2 running back.
Right. Harvey was as well.
With a new coach.
Yeah.
No one significant that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Who were the 3 day 3 guys? It was Tootin, Scadaboo, early round 4. Tootin, Scadaboo, and there was one more, right?
How about Dylan Sampson?
Woody Marks is the same coach.
Yes.
I was thinking about the day 3 guys from 2024 that may have gotten new coaches, and if it mattered.
Yeah, it was Trevor Etienne, Woody Marks. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at day 3 running backs in 2024.
Caleb Johnson was a day 2 pick last
He
year
was.
by the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ugh.
Bucky Irving was a day 3 guy in 24, but he didn't get a new coach. He did get a new coordinator.
Thought
True.
about that. Audric Estime got a new coach and a new team. No, Audric Estime didn't get a new coach. Never mind.
I mean, you know who the guy was Tyrone Tracy. He didn't get a new coach, but he did get replaced by another day 3 running back.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough of a sample size. If they draft a running back, then maybe we could start talking about that, but I don't think so. I think Scadaboo.
I mean, I think to the point, historically speaking, that has been true. That day 3 running backs that pop as rookies are more risky than guys who were drafted earlier.
Yeah. Now just remember, he was an early day 3 pick, and it was one of the best running back classes we've had in years. I have a feeling Scadaboo would have been a day 2 pick in most. Like this year, he'd be probably a day 2 pick, right? I don't know, but just spitball. Yeah.
Right.
It's
Kind of a
question.
different era.
And he's coming off a major injury, so it's a good question. Thanks, guys.
Well,
have a wonderful day.
What are we going to talk about tomorrow?
I will tell you in a moment because I forgot. Tomorrow is ideal trade / free agent scenarios. Where do we want to see? How about Brian Thomas Jr. with Mac Jones on the Vikings, ship out Addison, bring in Shanahan?
No. Just Mike Evans reuniting with Liam Cohen.
Right. This would be great for Justin Jefferson. Anyway, we'll talk to you tomorrow with a little free agency preview on Fantasy Football Today. See ya.